Hey, it's the Chief with Bonding with Board Games. Hey, we're going to talk about Mottainai. All right, Carl Chuddick, Glory to Rome, the whole black box thing, a few other games here or there. So there's been some complaints about the rule book in here. The rule book kind of walks you through the procedures of the game, not really laying out the strategies. And there are so many strategies in here, you couldn't really teach it that way. When you play, when you learn from the game, you're a little lost. They even tell you, hey, give it 2 or 3, 4 tries and you'll kind of get the feel of what you're doing. That's true. That can be frustrating. My wife hated that. I am going to do a little mini kind of explanation here in a little bit. I try to kind of show you what the victory points are worth first, and then just a little bit of what you're doing. There's some other tutorials out there that you can watch as well. I did what I could show in mine, but you almost really got to play it. So we'll see. I felt like I was a little all over the place even when I kind of explained it, because I didn't want to do a step-by-step walkthrough. I just wanted to kind of show the feel. You be the judge, see if I did or not. I'm not sure I did. So with that great lead in, let's go take a look at that. Let's talk about this. Set up for a 2-person game. First of all, the rules will flat out tell you there's nothing hard here except in kind of how you win the game. And they'll tell you got to play 2, 3, 4 times, and then you'll kind of get a feel for it. It'll take off. True, true, true. Listen to them, because what happens is, and I'm going to teach from back order, really the way you win is when you're looking at these cards, they have a point value here, 3. And if you can build this cup and it goes down, you can put it on either side. I'll explain gallery and sales kind of later. But basically, you're going to complete these items or build these items, and they're going to be worth just whatever the face point value is. So again, 3 for metal, and paper is only worth 1. You can see the point down there. And you have stone, which is worth 2. And when the lion's share of the points that you're going to make are going to be off of these point values that are based on this card. And a game can end suddenly as soon as someone's got 5 things built. And again, they can either go in what's called your gallery, or they can go in your gift shop. As soon as you've got 5 down, game's over. There's also a little text on cards that'll end the game, like you can see after your prayer action. Explain that later. You may return this. If you do, end the game. Here's the nice thing. This game takes about 30 minutes. So I was lost the first few times. I'm thinking, what am I doing? A lot of your gameplay has to do with the text that's down here, and this text doesn't kick in until it's a completed item. And if you've played any other games like Glory to Rome or whatever, there's a lot of different strategies you can do, but you have no idea what you're doing when you're first starting out until you realize, oh, this chains into that, that chains into this, and there's different strategies with your temple you can use, and that's really where the fun of this comes. All right, they've got some great reference cards, okay, because your turn, when it's your turn, you're going to be going through what's called the morning phase, the noon phase, and the night phase. It moves really quickly, and you're going to be doing tasks that you can borrow from your neighbor's task. So I'm actually going to be working off my neighbor's item and then back to my item. And your temple has a bunch of key little things in here that'll show you. They've got a nice little helper mat guide here that shows you what each of these tasks do. And then you've got areas where you have helpers and sales, and further out, if you complete, building, if I build this cool little ring, then it will be over here and I've sold it to somebody, or hey, I built this thing, but it was so cool, I'm going to keep it over here in my gallery. And either way, they're going to score points at the end of the game, but there's some things that those will do for you that I'll cover in a second. So first thing you're going to do when it becomes your morning phase is you've got your hand of cards. You can't have more than 5, and if you do have more than 5, what happens is you've got to choose some of these cards that are going to be returned to the deck. Now, one way the game can end is if this deck is exhausted. So if I had 6 cards and I had to get rid of one, I would take one of my cards and it just goes down on the bottom of the deck. So that's the first thing you're going to do for the morning phase. Then you're going to come in and you're going to take your prior task that you used. Don't worry about that. I'm going to show that in a second. And it gets thrown onto the floor. This is the floor. The area between you and the players is the floor. You're going to be using this to pick things up and do different things with it, but just know that's where it goes. There are some other cards that once you've completed them, okay, it's not this one, but if I had something completed, sometimes a completed card, the text on it will let you do something special in the morning. So if you have one of those, you're going to want to do that. And then you're going to choose one of your tasks, one of your things to be a task. Now the cards are interesting. All right, you can see if I use this to build, I would build a bell. If I put it down on my craft bench, which is down over here, it's just going to be like a piece of metal that I could build stuff with. And if I use a task, it's going to be the smith. Now we'll go through these because you got smiths and clerks and potters, and I've got these all wrong, so as I'm thumbing through them, you can't tell what they are. All right, I'm going to walk through. So if you're doing the smith task, again, this breaks down exactly what the smith task is, and it's that you can take a card from your hand. By its cost, you can build it. Now, this would mean I would have to have 3 metal cards. Now, this would count as 1, so if I wanted to build this coin, I've got 1, but I'd have to have 2 other metal cards in my hand. I don't have that. Now, when you use them as a resource, you don't burn them or anything. You're just basically saying, here they are. All right. For making the frog out of stone, I would need 2. Well, again, I only have 1. The potter would also require 3, but hey, look. I've got this 1 here. So I can come in and say, hey, I'm going to make this paper item. It's pretty easy to make a curtain. It only cost me 1. This card counts as 1. I don't need any others. And I will have a completed work that is a curtain. And you can see this is the opponent's skip your tailor or smith task. Now what that means is when you play a game, and again, I'm not walking you through full turn order, I get to do the opponent's task first. So I'd get to do a clerk task. Then if someone else played, I would do theirs, and then I could come over and do mine. So by having this curtain down here, it's going to prevent tailor and smith tasks from being copied. So I'm limiting out my opponents from doing things that I have on my own task. So it's kind of a neat little deal. And the way it works is it's easy to get the paper stuff down early. There's going to be ways to build things from my craft bench early, or to really tailor my hand so that I have a bunch of metal cards in my hand, and then I can make some of these ones that are also worth more victory points. Paper's only worth 1, that one's going to be worth 3. But to run through so you can kind of see this while I'm also referencing it. So if I had a clerk task, which again is on my opponent's little task area, but I could add it in mine as well, and you get to do their task as well, is you're going to take a card from your craft bench, which is down, sorry I moved it, which would be down here, any cards here. And I'm going to take it from here, and I would be able to roll it over into my sales area. Sales area is kind of like, hey, this is sold, somebody's ordered something. And it may get you victory points later. You'll get lost in the minutia if I explain this now, but you're able to move stuff from area to area. The monk is you can take a card from the floor. Remember, this is the floor. You're going to take them from the floor and you're going to move them over to your helpers. The key for having these guys in your helper area, let's say I had these things over in my helper area, all right, is when you now do a task. If you do a task and it matches somebody that's a helper, hello, I've got a helper that matches the metal. Instead of just being able to do this once, I'll be able to do it twice. And there's a task where not only can you do this thing here, but you can do what's called a prayer. A prayer is simply adding a card that's going to come back into your hand at the end of your turn. You do a prayer, you get to put a card here, and at the end of my turn, I'll add this into my hand. Or I could do a crafting phase, which is very similar to when I'm trying to build cards here to make items, but I have the cards already pledged down into my craft bench area. All right, so we're moving in. If we do the tailor is basically a way to return any number of cards that you're holding in your hand and refresh your hand. The potter phase is take a card from the floor again. This is the floor, but instead of putting it over into your helper area, you're going to put it into your craft bench, because sometimes you're building an item out of your hand, All right, so again, I'm building a paper item with one in my hand, and if I wanted to build a stone, if I had 2 stone in my hand, I could build this frog because I have 2 of the stone cards. But the crafting area works the same way. If I wanted to craft something out of my bench, now I'm using the stuff in my bench instead of the stuff in my hand. All right, so there's little different things that you really have to learn with the text on the card. And you're moving helpers that are giving you extra actions when you do certain tasks, and you're throwing things down into your craft bench so that you can build stuff or pledge out sales, or when you've built a thing, you know, it counts as victory points. Now there are some bonus victory points at the end of the game that'll have to do with, do you have enough metal items compared to what you guaranteed you would sell? You can score your victory points on either the gallery or in your gift shop. And then if you have like a Monopoly, I have the most metal items, and in my hand I have a bunch of metal items, I'm going to get victory points again based on this. The hard thing is learning, what do I want to do? Do I want to have a bunch of helpers and then just put stuff in my gallery? Do I want to have craft bench? And it's a little confusing as you play, and you just don't know what all these things do and how they're going to interact with each other. Enough said. All right, we're back. So hopefully that made some kind of sense. I got to tell you, as you play, what you're really learning is what these cards do, because when you complete a work and they let you then bend the rules or do something special, that's really kind of where the game is. But I like the multiple different paths to victory. You can just do a bunch of paperwork to get them done real quick and hope you can outscore somebody else that maybe only got a couple things down. But if they got a couple medals, you know, they might end up sitting on more points than you. So the whole morning, noon, and night actions as you move through is really formulaic, but what you do with those cards is not. And that's the part that you can't really read in the rule book. You just got to sit down, go through the machinations, and then kind of go, oh, I see, that's what I might do before, or what I might do next time. Or, oh, okay, that's what he's doing. That's kind of interesting. Or wow, she's got a neat take on that. That's the part that also drove my wife crazy. She's like, what am I doing? Why am I doing this? And then just things weren't unfolding for us. So I'm not sure I'll get this back on the table with her anytime soon. That being said, it has a nice minimalistic or minimalism feel. I like that. The multiple paths to victory and how the cards kind of go, ooh, that does that. That'll work real well with this. Is nice. I like it. And it's fast. You can get this 20, 30 minutes. And if you're really going through and just learning the mechanisms, you can really work yourself through 2 or 3 games pretty quick. And then you're like, okay, I've seen a few cards. I'm going to try this thing to win. And then next time I'm going to try this thing. And again, the short length of play, this is 15 to 30 minutes. Mine were all running at least 30 minutes, but they were teaching games. You can't go wrong. It's not like, oh, if this was an hour or an hour and a half or 2 hours, I would never come back. But it's short, it's fast, it's pretty, and it's heavy but light because you're not doing anything too hard. It's just, what am I going to do? So that's it. Chief, bonding with board games. By the way, check out some ham tag. We just filled some. That's why I'm at the table. I'm losing my light, so I may be a little dark. Can't tell. It's hard to tell. I'm looking toward the light. See you guys later. Bye.